did exceptionally well. Pascal Wehrlein and Jake Dennis taking the top spots on the podium. I'm joined by Oliver Askew and Nicky Shields. I obviously didn't get the style memo, dressed like 2 bottles of milk, which is fine. We've got our calcium and we are ready to go. Let's talk about last night's performance from the Porsches, the factory team and, of course, the manufacturers team. Oliver, stunning performances to come from 9th and 11th and get 1st and 2nd.
Incredible. We knew the Porsches were strong after Mexico, but we didn't know if they had that consistency from race to race. We're showing up here in Diriyah, completely different track, different temperature, different circuit. And, yeah, just completely blew everyone away yesterday. It started around 10th, both Pascal and Jake did, and they just finished 1 and 2. Just had a huge energy advantage over the rest of the fields.
Nicky, you interviewed Pascal at the end on the podium, huge celebrations, and he was really excited. He was really overwhelmed, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he was, well, it's the most emotional interview I think he's done since he started in Formula E, because it meant so much to him. Him and the team have put in a huge amount of work. Obviously, we saw that performance from them in Mexico City, but they've done really well there in the past, so it was very difficult to read into that performance. Would that momentum continue into the rest of the season? And it has. You know, to see him beat Jake Dennis, who finished ahead of him by 7.5 seconds in Mexico City, I think cemented him as obviously one of the best drivers on the grid. And it was a really special moment, I think, for him and the team.
Yeah, it was. And let's not forget, Sam Bird started in 3rd, finished in 3rd. A great performance. And Sam Bird, is he back, Oliver?
I would say that he is, and it's a massive confidence boost for Sam Bird and Jaguar as a team. Both did really well on FP3 earlier today, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do today. Hopefully have a bit more efficiency from their powertrain in their car, and maybe they can start or finish a couple positions further up today.
All right, we're going to go over to Karun now, who's with Jake Dennis, and I think Karun is going to have a little bit of fun with our brand new piece of technology here at Formula E. It's like a television that you can touch and draw lines on. That's the kind of simple way to explain it, isn't it? Karun, Jake, over to you.
We saw some fantastic racing yesterday where 2 drivers who started 9th and 11th came through to finish 1st and 2nd. I'm joined by the championship leader, Jake Dennis, who finished 2nd yesterday. Jake, let's get into your race.
Let's have a look.
First of all, the start. It wasn't a great launch.
Wasn't a great launch. Yeah, really over target on the acceleration and wheel spin directly. You know, Jev on the dirty side of the grid has already got the jump on me. My initial plan was always to go wide here because it does stack up on the outside here, and I just wanted to make sure I had the clean line, and sure enough it paid off. You know, Antonio, who actually started 13th, is already, you know, a couple of positions ahead, but obviously doesn't quite work out for him.
Well, I think you can see Da Costa there, but these 2 Mahindra cars are about to get into a bit of a mess, aren't they? And that just opens the door up for you on the inside. You can see there, those cars get in a collision, so you're already back up 2 places.
Yeah, this is really crucial for our race because, you know, the Mahindras aren't the most efficient powertrain at the moment, and to clear one of them was crucial for our race. So not too bad of a start, but, you know, not as good as Pascal's, who was already 6th, I think, by this point.
But then you were so good on energy, and your cornering speeds were good enough to get you through the first sector. And the track started to open up. So Buemi getting out of the way there by going into attack mode.
Exactly, yeah.
And that was crucial for you, wasn't it? To have free air to unleash the pace that you had.
Yeah, even though we don't generate that much downforce, the actual turbulent air in these cars and, you know, just having clean air is actually quite crucial, especially through the middle sector. So at this point, it was literally qualifying laps for like 2 laps in a row, really not much energy saving to close the gap and make sure, obviously, I just generally did the jump on Cassidy.
So you've got through the pack, and all of a sudden, to much, you know, most people's surprise, you guys are running 1-2. Penultimate lap. Did you think you had a chance to win this?
I obviously knew I had more energy. Pascal was really strong through the 2nd sector just because of that turbulent air, and he, you know, I'm racing a guy with the same car as me, so I didn't quite have the energy advantage as I did against these guys. You know, he is sort of 3% for me as well, so it was really close, but in the end, you know, we both had a great race. I didn't expect to be 2nd, and, you know, to even be fighting for the win was something which was unexpected.
And then on the final lap, we saw, I mean, to be fair, Pascal seemed to break away a little bit, actually, on the penultimate lap. And
exactly,
you weren't quite there for the last one.
I expected to be a bit closer, to be honest, but he'd put in like a really good 1st and 2nd sector. He played it quite smart. I think he actually used quite a lot of energy to break the gap. And then by the time I got to turns 18...
You tried to scare him there, I see.
Yeah. There's a surface change here, which actually makes it incredibly slippery. You actually have quite good grip, and then it just understeers. So I was hoping if he snatches a front, something like what Dan did in qualifying, and you can throw away the lap, and, you know, we could have done that, and he might have stopped on the line, but it was close enough, but not quite.
Well, hopefully you won't qualify down in 11th, and it'll be a lot easier for you today.
Yeah, I made my life difficult, but, you know, we've got an efficient powertrain, and hopefully if I can just start top 5, top 6, then we should have a really good day as well.
Good luck, mate.
Thank you.
Well, just 1 point behind Jake Dennis is Porsche's Pascal Wehrlein. What a performance, what a powertrain. First and second to kick off the season with. And Pascal, we saw the reaction in the car, what it meant to you yesterday.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, you know, if you're starting at the front and you're winning the race, it feels great, but starting from P9 and then winning the race was just amazing and huge relief.
It was an amazing comeback, and to that point, how do you feel going into qualification, knowing that you can go from P9 to P1 like that?
Well, today I feel like the track has changed a bit, so I'm not very happy with how practice went, but we still have a bit of time to change the car for qualifying.
And in terms of making alterations, what are you possibly going to do differently going into qualification to maybe make the duels?
Yeah, that would be the target for today. That would make our lives a bit easier in the race.
But we know that whatever position you're in, you'll do very well, Pascal. Thank you very much for your time. Watch out for this man in qualification. It's safe to say this could be an absolute corker.
I tell you what, some lovely hairdos there from the boys, from Radzi and Pascal. We like that. I might have to go to their hairdresser one day. Anyway, quickly, Karun, we know that the Porsches have got race pace. They don't necessarily have qualifying pace. One team that does have qualifying pace but doesn't necessarily have race pace is the Neo. Dan Tickton, we've got to talk about him.
I mean, he's been superb to watch all weekend. He's got all this confidence to have the car moving around underneath him, and he just catches it before it gets in the wall. But when it came to the race, he plummeted, didn't he, yesterday from 4th to 14th or whatever. So, yeah, they haven't got the efficiency yet in the race, but for this session coming up, he's going to be right up there.
Yeah, he's an exciting driver, and I think, you know, I've been sat next to you watching free practice, and you get excited watching Dan Tickton because he does really throw the back end out. He's fighting the front. It's just great to watch.
Well, he's really wringing the neck of the car. You know, he's really hustling it, and it is exciting to watch. Yeah, and it's nice to see a driver who's trying to exploit every little potential that the car's got.
Just quickly, give us a meaning to the term efficiency in Formula E. What does that mean?
It's about trying to go as fast as possible, but using as little energy as possible.
And how do you do that? How do you accomplish that?
There's a variety of ways. It's about recovering as much energy on the brakes. It's about going through the corners as quickly as possible and trying not to waste it fighting other people.
All right, Karun, always a pleasure. Thank you very much. So basically what Karun is saying, it's all about science and physics.
Ready for the second qualifying session of the weekend here at the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship. This round 3 of the season, and these are the drivers that will be out in the first group. It's the odd-numbered drivers, so 1st, 3rd, 5th, etc. in the championship. Jake Dennis, Buemi, Bird, Hughes, Cassidy, Da Costa, Wehrlein, Nato, Ticktum, Sete Camara, and Kelvin van der Linde. The top 4 after this first 12 minutes will advance through to the duel stages, which are always a lot of fun. And you can have fun too by scanning the QR code in the top left and joining in the Formula E predictor, and it's live all the way through the groups. Now this man, and into the duels. This man, Sebastian Buemi, took pole position yesterday. This man, Jake Hughes, was alongside him on the front row. So those two with strong performance yesterday, both in the final. Both will be hoping to repeat it today. Jake Dennis was not in the duels, started 11th on the grid, actually qualified 12th on the grid. But a penalty for Sergio Sete Camara means that he started in 11th place. And if you want to know something really interesting, no, I did it right, that's okay. I was suddenly panicked that my spreadsheet I make of qualifying results, I did it off the grid, not the results of qualifying. But no, it's all correct. Don't worry, everybody. On that front, at least, I won't be giving you incorrect information. Here's our octo box of team principals. Alongside me in commentary is the man who had the bottom left man as his boss last year, Roger Griffiths, and that is Oliver Askew. And excited
Jack.
for this qualifying session, Oliver?
Yeah, really excited. We'll see if these teams that had a deficit in qualifying yesterday can use the time last night on this double race weekend to figure things out. Now, if we've learned anything so far this year in Gen 3, it's that these sessions are so unpredictable, and that pace in qualifying doesn't really translate to pace in the race. So we saw the Porsche powertrains completely dominate the race yesterday, and they didn't start up front. So it doesn't really matter where they start.
Now, there's a bit of a theory, and I've not done too much digging into this just yet, but maybe it's something for us to bear in mind, and maybe see whether you think it stacks up.
Uh-oh.
The Porsches, not good on the brakes. Not good on the brakes. One lap, really struggling, etc., etc. In the race, that doesn't matter because it's all regen and energy management, and their big time loss, potentially, or the big reason for their struggles over one lap is their braking. And I remember being in a chat in the back of the paddock in Valencia with the Porsche drivers, and they were all just, including Dennis and the Andretti squad, they were all just saying, I just can't brake. We can't get the stability under braking, etc. But then, come the race, that doesn't matter.
Yeah, there could be some merit in that for sure. Yeah, a lot of efficiency in the race comes from carrying speed through the corner. So after the braking phase and the deceleration phase, if you're able to carry that momentum through the corner, you're not accelerating from a lower speed, and you're not deploying as much battery. That's where a lot of the teams focus on when it comes to race running. And you mentioned difficulty under braking, but it's probably just an inconsistency. Here's Bohemi Radio.
Is very good. Push next lap, 2 push laps ahead.
So they're very happy with Bohemi's track position. Connor Somerville on the radio, who had his first ever pole position as a race engineer yesterday. So he was happy about that. Here's Jake Dennis into turn 1. Championship leader by 1 point over Pascal Wehrlein. Finishing second and first, but in reverse orders in Mexico City and Diriyah. But Dennis's fastest lap in Mexico is what gives him the championship advantage. And we got the plank on board on his run down the hill.
As we saw yesterday in the first group of qualifying, the track not really coming in yet. This is the only series that we have here this weekend, no support series, so the track is a bit dusty from not having any cars on it over the past few hours. So we can expect the times to continue to drop. Jake just getting a feel for things here on his first push lap, making sure his references are all in the right places.
Dan Ticktum about to come through the final corner, and his lap time is a 1 minute 10.5, a tenth slower than Sebastian Buemi, who's quickest at the moment. Da Costa goes up into third place. Jake Dennis goes fastest on a 1 minute 10.278. Sergio Sette Camera comes through to go second fastest, a tenth quicker than Dan Ticktum. Jake Hughes is quickest in sector 1, quickest in sector 2, and this is going to be a big old lap here from Jake Hughes. He comes around the final corner now, and the man from Birmingham goes quickest only by a quarter of a second, so was about 4/10 slower than Dennis in the final sector. Was Ian James's man at the moment. Van Dorn missing out, and Ticktum, Da Costa, Bird, Cassidy, Nato and Van der Linde.
Starting second push.
So Hughes is doing push by the looks of things.
I would say most of these drivers are planning a tire change during this session, as we saw yesterday. Most of the quick cars yesterday were pitting for tires, like Sam Bird yesterday, quickest in Group 2.
And this is Sam Bird having quite a bit of a lockup, a very big lockup actually in modern Formula E terms, down at turn 18.
So that's difficult because he's going to go for another push here and not really know where the limit of the braking zone. Well, he's obviously found the limit, but he doesn't have a proper reference in that turn 18 braking zone.
No flat spots on these tyres. Broadly speaking, I mean, you probably could, but in
because
general,
they're so hard.
Yeah, a lockup doesn't really do too much damage, so it's not like he's got to come in and put a new set on. Good lap from Van Dorn. 700 slower than Hughes. So that is a very positive lap for the DS Penske team, who have never got into the duels so far this season. Okay, we've only had 2 qualifyings, but here's Van Dorn's radio.
Okay, you push this lap and we box P2 at the moment, missing half a tenth, so we can make it, I think.
So Hughes still half a second off what they did in FP3, so we can expect these times to drop here in these closing minutes of Group A.
Although they are running at 300 kilowatts of power in this session, whereas it was 350 in the end of free practice, but it's definitely still more time to be found. As you say, everybody returning to the pit lane now with 5 minutes and 10 seconds to go. And is everyone's looking at what the quick guys did yesterday, right? In terms of these group qualifyings. They're not just sticking with what they did yesterday because they still think that's the best idea. You're kind of learning from other teams as well. Because we didn't have this yesterday. We didn't have everyone in the pits yesterday.
No, I think each of these teams are studying what others are doing and what other cars are doing, and the cars that transferred into the duels yesterday. And as I mentioned, that was Sam Bird and a few others pitting for a fresh set of Hankook tires.
And a little bit of a drink for Jake Dennis with 4.5 minutes to go at the moment. Hughes, Van Dorn, Cassidy and Dennis advancing through at the moment. Eliminated would be Buemi, so De Camera, De Costa, Tictum, Bird, Nato and Van der Linde, but you have to expect a bit more pace from the Neos after their performance yesterday. Bird made it through to the duels yesterday. As Hughes returns to the pits with 4 minutes and 5 seconds to go. Hughes
continued to say this every day now. It's all about putting the lap together and not necessarily going purple in Sector 1 and making mistakes throughout the rest of the lap. So it would be interesting to see here who has the most confidence in their cars, who's done the most work in the free practice session earlier today. This is a man who's been extremely confident in his equipment. Speaking to him earlier today at lunch, feels like he has a really good chance at pole again today, but understands that points might not be realistic when it comes to energy running and efficiency in the race. So ticked him now through turn 3. There's a lot of undulations in this track, and it's really nice to see that from this angle. Dropping down the hill here, balancing the car with the throttle. He's purple in Sector 1.
10th up on Jake Hughes' time. He's right at the bottom of the hill now at turn 14. Karun's in the pit lane. Karun, everybody now back out on circuit, I think.
Yeah, it looks like a jack. Yes, it looks like a jack. I was looking before, unusually compared to yesterday, where we talked about people going all the way through or perhaps just changing 2 tires. Most people seem to have changed all 4 tires today. So, yeah, different strategy in qualifying.
Yeah, that is very different. So, as we were saying, sometimes changing rears, but Karun down there and seeing them change all 4 tires. Here comes Tictum up towards the final corner now. Gets onto the brakes, turns into turn 21. It's not going to be quickest, I don't think, here, Tictum. Here he comes. Well, there you go. 0.3 quicker than Jake Hughes. So that's a very strong lap from Dan Tictum. Hughes is on his outlap now. Everybody on circuit. The lap times are going to come in thick and fast. Looks as though Cassidy's doing another build lap. Nato here is 0.3 down after the first 2 sectors. Coming up now to the final corner of turn 21. Antonio Felix da Costa, meanwhile, is only a 10th away in Sector 1 and a 10th away in Sector 2. Nato goes up into 4th place.
Yeah, this is definitely the correct decision, so yeah, let's just start need to improve this next lap.
So Tictum saying definitely the way to go, and he'll try and improve on the next lap. Here comes Da Costa, as I say, a 10th away after sectors 1 and 2. Van der Linde's done a decent first sector. He's quicker than Norman Nato in Sector 1, so that's good for the man in his second Formula E race. Da Costa across the line, he goes second fastest, a 10th slower than Dan Ticktum. So decent from the Porsche man. Van der Linde is only a 10th down after sector 2. Here he is, a day bedding in yesterday, but now the South African is on a pretty decent lap coming up to turns 18 and 19. Something of a baptism of fire, and it wouldn't be Formula E without Sergio Sede Camara getting in your way a little bit. Through the chicane now, down towards the final corner. Might have cost him a little bit of time. Onto the brakes, out through turn 21. What can Van der Linde do? 6th. 4/10 slower in the final sector, but fuming Fred Espinoss and Thomas Biermeier. Well, after that on the radio, here's Van der Linde.
Fantastic sector 1 and 2, push.
And he's going to go for another push, so we'll keep an eye on it. Da Costa still second. He's on another push lap, but not improving this time around. I love double pushes. I love it. It's so much fun. It's like good old-fashioned go out there and just go round and go fast. 15 seconds to go. Sam Bird's done a very good middle sector, so keep an eye on his time in the bottom right. Da Costa across the line. Third. Doesn't improve that time. Cassidy up to second in the Envision. Here comes Sam Bird. Still up on Ticktum. Checker flag is out, so all of these will be the final laps now. The top 4 advance through to the duels. Bird into the right-hander. Sete Camara's up after the middle sector. Bird to the top of the times. A 1:09.628. Satisfaction for James Barkley. Here's Sergio Sede Camara, but as I said, there's loads of people going quicker than Bird. Hughes, Van Dorn, Dennis, Buemi, Sete Camara, all quicker than Bird at the moment after 2 sectors. This is going to be incredibly tight. Sete Camara through the final turn. Goes third quickest. Neo second and third. Huge lapping coming from Jake Hughes. He's 3/10 up on Sam Bird. There comes Van Dorn, fastest. Is the DS Penske finally going to make it through to the duels? Dennis goes into second. Bird gets shuffled down to third. Buemi goes fastest now. Bird's on the bubble in 4th position. Can Jake Hughes knock him out? Yes. Bird out. Ticktum. Sete Camara out. And now Da Costa and Nato are not on good laps. Da Costa across the line in 9th. Horrible lap for the Portuguese. And Norman Nato through to finish in 10th. Hughes, Buemi, Van Dorn and Dennis, the 4 drivers that will advance through to the duels. The championship leader will be in the top 8. And just when it looks so good for Jaguar, Bird will be on the 5th row of the grid. What a remarkable end of that session.
Finally,
you can say something if you want now.
Yeah, no, I'm letting you go. That was an exciting end. Exciting end to that session in Group A. Good to see Van Dorn up there transferring after a terrible qualifying session yesterday.
Yeah, really good news for the DS Penske team. Here's Jake Hughes on the radio.
Okay, checker flag. Scenario 6 for the in-lap. Let's push for temperatures. And stay online, keep the tires clean.
This guy can qualify.
Yeah, he's so consistent, just never making any mistakes, at least so far here this season. From session to session, he's always up there. So far, having a great understanding of this new Gen 3 car.
So now, Hughes, Buemi and Degrassi are the only drivers who could have been in the duels at all 3 races so far. Because Hughes is through, naturally. Ticktum is out. Buemi is through. And Degrassi's coming up in the next qualifying group. So remarkable performance from Jake Hughes again. 600ths clear of Sebastian Buemi. That Envision looking quick with the Jaguar powertrain, out qualifying Sam Bird. Stoffel Van Dorn making it through the duels for the first time this season as reigning champion. He started 14th and 17th so far this season. Finally, he will be in the top 8 after Group A qualifying. Wow, so crikey, remarkable stuff. Let's head down to the garage of the DS Penske crew, shall we? Because they're finally into the duels. Nikki Shields is there.
I am indeed. We are just manoeuvring our way around the DS Penske car that's just come in. Obviously, Stoffel Van Dorn there. Jay, let's have a quick word. Jay Penske, team principal. Fantastic. Finally, Stoffel Van Dorn into the duels.
Yeah. I mean, you can be quick in practice, but you got to be quick in qualifying, right? And the guys worked awful hard overnight to make sure we got everything out of the car, and Stoffel just did a great job in the session, and excited for the duels.
So what has changed between the earlier sessions and coming into today's qualifying?
We tested 100 things. If I tell you the amount of things that were tested in this last practice session, the guys worked on everything. Every little small gain we could find, we worked on, and really proud of all the efforts the engineering team did overnight.
Brilliant. Now, are we hoping that we can replicate this performance and get Jean-Eric Vergne, who is still sitting in the car, patiently waiting to go out in the next group?
So it's all up to him. We have high expectations to get both cars in the duels today.
Looking at yesterday's race results, were you surprised to see how strong the Porsche powertrain has been, you know, not just at Mexico City, but also here as well?
I think when you look at the Porsche company and Volkswagen overall, they take motorsports very seriously. They've done a great job in the off-season to be very competitive, and the results have showed in the first 2 races, but that's not going to be, we think, the results for the rest of the season.
Excellent. So you're here to show them.
Thanks. Have a great day.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Jay Penske.
Like it. Fighting talk from Jay Penske, the boss of DS Penske. And Jean-Eric Vergne getting ready to head out onto the circuit in the second group of qualifying.
Interesting to note the track progression in the last session. I reckon Berg did his lap a bit too early. He was the first one to jump up there in the final stint. And you saw his team applauding, but it was still a minute or so before the checkered flag came out. So
Jean-Eric Vergne getting ready to go. No pressure from his boss. Oh no, sorry. All the pressure from his boss, saying they very much expect him to progress into the duels. Group B of qualifying underway here in Diriyah. Round 3 of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship. Mitch Evans in the Jaguar about to depart the garage. Sam Bird, his teammate there on the left, not making it through. Dan Ticktum not making it through.
that's a surprise.
Yeah.
Quick in every session so far this weekend, but this one
seems just a little bit frustrated, doesn't he? Some big ones in this. Obviously, we have Pascal Wehrlein, second place man in the championship. Jake Dennis has advanced, so already Wehrlein will know that, and that's a little bit of a ramp up of pressure for Pascal Wehrlein. Lucas de Grassi has been in the duels in both races so far this season. Can he keep up that record? The other big one in this session, Gunter and Mortara. Maserati, horrible day yesterday. One car didn't start the race, the other one didn't finish. They both crashed in practice. They've managed to get enough parts together to actually be out in this qualifying session. But can they make it through to the duels in a car that does have a quick lap overall? We're on board with Wehrlein.
Yeah, and as a driver, it's a difficult one, because you had a massive crash yesterday. You know, it wasn't even close to making it through turn 11 in his qualifying group, Gunther. And you're going into today with a track that requires such high commitment without any confidence.
Yeah. Not good. Not good. Most of these laps at the moment are fairly... they're not going to be the quickest laps that we've ever seen, and I would suggest they're not really pushing at the moment on this on these out laps. As they come up the hill now towards the chicane. Nico Müller has returned to the pit lane, so he's gone out and then back into the pits, I think, Müller. No, he can't have done. He hasn't had time to do that. So, yeah, not sure why Müller is still in the garage. We'll try and get to the bottom of that one. Round the final corner now, and across the line comes Wehrlein, a 13.2, so 3 seconds off the pace at the moment. But now they're probably going to start their quick laps as Lotterer comes around and does a 13.1. Go quickest for the time being, but none of these lap times representative now. But now we could be on this push lap with Andre Lotterer as we start to drop down the hill.
Andre mentioning earlier today in free practice that he's struggling with a bit of understeer in the car, but that's just going to aid traction at the rear. So, you know, which one do you want? I think with this new powertrain, so much torque in this new car with the harder tires. I think you'd want some support at the rear of the car, and he was the quickest Porsche powertrain driver earlier today in free practice 3 in P10. So obviously Jake getting it done, moving on in the Group A session.
Across the line, Wehrlein does a 10.1, 2/10 quicker than Lucas de Grassi. Lotterer and Gunter second and third, although Fenestras now goes up into second place in the Nissan. Here comes Lotterer, and it's 4th place for Lotterer. Here comes Gunter into the final corner, and it's 4th quickest for him. Up into 3rd place goes Mortara, and Rast goes quickest on a 9.7. Jean-Eric Verne's on a reasonable lap too. And he goes 2nd fastest, 800 slower than René Rast. Still very positive. Roland up into 4th place, but the track evolution is going to be so strong. There goes Evans up to the top of the times, a 1 minute 9.557. But drivers going for 2nd push laps as well, because Wehrlein is on a quick one after the first 2 sectors.
Yeah, we can expect everyone to finish the 2nd push, then... Oh, here's a radio transmission, Evans.
Lots of cars on double push.
Yeah, so double push for everyone on the racetrack at the moment. And then we can expect them to pit for a fresher set of tires. Here we see Lauderer, and he'll be pitting on this lap.
Through now the final corner comes Gunter in the Maserati, 5th quickest for him. And Mortara goes 8th quickest, so not rapid for the Maserati MSG squad. Fenestras and de Grassi are already back into the pit lane. Here comes Jean-Eric Verne again, and comes across the line 3/10 slower than previously.
And already the times are pretty decent here in this first stint of Group B. Just a couple tenths away from Hughes and what he set in the first session. So I think we can expect the lap time here in order to transfer. I think we can expect maybe 109.3, I'd say.
Okay. To progress. If you get a 109.3, you're through.
I would say so, yeah. That might be a little aggressive, but
no.
I think that's a target that most of these drivers are shooting for at the moment.
I've written it down. Back into the garage goes Mitch Evans. As you say, everybody now coming back. It's quite interesting because I remember first speaking to Porsche at their launch a month or 2 ago now, maybe a bit longer. They were like, oh, these tires, you'll just run and run all the way through the session, flat out, every lap, to get the best out of them. And then we sort of saw that a little bit in Mexico, but actually some started to pit and change. And now everyone's pit and changing. It's such a learning curve.
Yeah, each track has its own track surface. And this one seems to be putting a bit more tire energy and heat. And mainly those rear tires. It's not the front that overheats, it's the rear. Because of that extra torque of this Gen 3 car, the rears fall off so quickly.
So tyre change there for Lotterer.
Oh, don't drop the car.
Yeah, I know. I was
Still
thinking
going on.
that, right? It's going down while he's trying to...
They know what they're doing.
4.5 minutes to go. Who's your favourite mechanic on Lotterer's car? Which was your favourite?
They're all pretty good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're all a good group of guys.
Okay. Didn't know if, you know, old Mickey was the best or something. Or 4 minutes and 10 seconds to go. They'll be out onto the track again in a moment.
It's the same group.
Yeah.
For the most part, a couple of the engineers have changed. Some of the Porsche engineers moving over to that team this year.
So Fenestras coming down towards the first sequence of corners. He has been out on track. Actually, this is his. He's doing an out lap, and now what looks like a build lap. I don't think he's pushing here, is he? No. So he's doing an out and then a build and then a push, I would suggest, for Fenestras. Maybe out build double push. Maybe he's got time to do a push and then a cool and then another push. Who knows? Who knows?
The double push, I would say, isn't going to work.
Yeah.
You know, we saw a couple of those drivers try to make that happen in the Group A session, and they end up going slower, and that's mainly because of the rear tires overheating, not being able to get that jump out of the corner.
Degrassi, well, looked like he was starting the push, but he's ended up behind Venturi. But can Pascal Wehrlein make it through? He's cruising at the moment as he comes down the hill. All of these drivers now doing their out laps. And Wehrlein cruising down towards turn 14 before he gets going on the next lap. Fenestraz has started pushing in the Nissan after qualifying 18th yesterday, having made it through to the duels in Mexico City. More of a difficult day yesterday for Sasha Fenestraz.
Oh, all out of shape there on the brakes. This track is resurfaced every year, and sometimes some bumps appear where they don't expect them. And that corner being one of the bumpiest sections on the circuit, and the entry as well, where you don't want it. You want the car to be settled under the brakes, and we've seen a couple of cars lose the rear end there so far here this weekend.
90 seconds to go, so the big laps are about to come in. Fenestraz goes third fastest. He can do a cool and a push if he wants to here, Fenestraz. Not a super cool, but a relative cool. Tommaso Volpe.
Maybe I was a bit too optimistic with that 109.3.
No, you've said it now. You've said it now.
I'm going to say 109.5.
9.5. Okay, so you think Evans is through? No one will beat Evans' time.
I don't know. We'll see.
Right, here comes Degrassi into the final couple of corners. He's there or thereabouts with Mitch Evans. Got René Rast's running clock there as well, because he's just started a lap. Wehrlein is up after the first two sectors. Here comes Degrassi through the final corner, and it's 7th fastest only for Degrassi. He'll get another run at it if he does this double push.
Yeah, he's still pushing.
Muller is quick in sector 1. Rast is quick in sector 1, as you've seen. He's coming to the bottom of the hill now. And Nico Muller is right behind him on the circuit, just coming out of turn 14, as you saw there. And I'm interested to see what Muller can do after this middle sector. He's lost a bit of time, a couple of tenths away in sector 2. Rast is charging up the hill, and he's 3 tenths up after the middle sector. Roland's just done a huge first sector. And a pretty quick one from Wehrlein. Degrassi's losing time in the middle sector. Here comes Rast towards the final corner. Mortara and Gunter need to keep an eye on them, because they want to advance through to the duels for Maserati. Rast goes quickest. It's a 1:09.435. Up into 9th place goes Nico Muller. Here comes Max Gunter, wrestling it into the final corner at turn 21. It's 4th. Don't think that'll quite be good enough to get into the duels, because there's a lot of drivers improving. Mitch Evans running in 2nd position. Wehrlein in 3rd currently. Mortara goes 4th, pushes Gunter out of the duels. What's Evans going to do? Roland only goes 6th quickest. Wehrlein is a 10th down here. This could be tricky. Wehrlein is 3rd. Is he going to get shuffled down by anyone? No, Vern's only 8th. Only 8th for Vern. Lotterer jumps up into 9th position. But I think that's going to be it. Evans goes quickest. Mitch Evans goes from 2nd to 1st, but that keeps Mortara in the duels. And now James Barclay can applaud with knowledge that Evans is through to the duels.
I have to say, a really good job by both Maserati cars.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody was expecting that after the long night that they had, and the loss of confidence by both of those drivers having incidents. But I'm sure the competition's not going to like that both Pascal and Jake Dennis will be starting within the top 8. Here's Evans Radio.
Jan
critical on this lap, on these tyres on the way in.
De Grassi not making it through to the duels. He'll be on the 10th row of the grid in the end. Here's a look at what happened to him. Oh, was it a mistake at 18? Was it ever? Went in the wall there earlier on in practice.
Also struggling to slow the car down.
So a couple of lockups there. And like I say, the wall hit in the practice session, so struggling a bit at 18, Lucas de Grassi. Straight on. Got going again, not quite as spectacular as Dan Tickton did in practice, which was very amusing, but de Grassi out. But Wehrlein and Dennis, as you say, the top two in the championship, through to the duels.
Dan should have a go at Formula Drift.
Yeah,
huh?
yeah.
He'd be an all-star in that series. I mean, not that he isn't here, but...
So there is Wehrlein. Yeah, full credit to Eduardo Mortara next to him on the right-hand side after a terrible day for Maserati. Just a terrible day. There's no other way of putting it. Saw James Rossiter on the grid, gave him a hug. Looked like he needed it. He said, not a good day. He said, I said, there'll be better days, I think. He said, when? so tough start to life. Right, here's a look at Group B. Evans, Rast, Wehrlein and Mortara through to the duels. Gunther just missing out, as did Jean-Eric Verne in the DS Penske. So, we will be heading on to the duels in a couple of moments' time. It'll be Van Dorn versus Buemi first of all, but the other Jaguar car of Mitch Evans is through the duels. Let's go to Radzi.
Currently stood out of the Jaguar TCS garage with James Barkley, TP here. Great performance for Mitch Evans in qualification, and important for his confidence, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, Mitch has had pace in the car ever since we've been here, so it's really good to see that coming through. I mean, topped FP3 this morning. He's quick straight from the off in qualifying there as well, so really good to be able to double up on both his laps and go quickest.
On the face of it, 2 top 10 finishes for most drivers would be a good start to the season, but for him, he's got titles on his mind, so really wants to get in amongst it.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think a little bit unfortunate yesterday, but Mitch has got a huge amount of speed, and we know we've got a really good base potential with the new car here. So yeah, it's all to play for. This early part of the season is about getting points whenever you can, but Mitch has just been on that edge, and today is what you need sometimes, just to take that step forward and build from there.
All the best for a good quali.
Thank you, thanks.
Ah, Dan Tickton, it was looking so good. FP3 so fast, but not quite putting the lap together in quali. But I believe there was a bit of traffic.
Yes, there was a cat that ran onto the track. I think it was FP1 the other day. In front of me, I nearly hit it, and then it came out again on my second flying lap, which would have been better. So I think I probably could have just snuck into the duels. I don't think we quite had the pace that we had yesterday, but I think I would have been in the duels. But I mean, you just can't make it up. Like,
I think you need to go and have a word with the DS Penske team. So I'm sure I saw one of them travelling with a cat to the track this morning.
Well, something's going on. It seems to keep going for me, but there we go. I mean, I can't do anything about it, and the race is going to be tough, so it is what it is.
Thanks very much, Dan Tickton.
Race is tough when he's starting at the front, let alone when he's starting on the 6th row of the grid. The pit lane there, getting ready to head out on for the duels in a few moments' time. And the first duel we're going to have is Van Dorn versus Buemi, which is going to be quite a fun one. It'll be Van Dorn versus Buemi. Then it will be Dennis versus Hughes. Then it will be Wehrlein versus Rast. And then it will be Mortara versus Evans. So it is conceivable, only conceivable, but conceivable, that we have a Dennis Wehrlein final, because they are in opposite sides of the draw.
I would love to see that.
Because actually it's changed from last year. Last year you might remember it was Group A versus Group B in the duels, but now it's A versus A versus A, B versus B, B versus B, etc. So a little change for this year. So here we go, quarterfinals about to get underway. Van Dorn against Buemi, Dennis against Hughes, Wehrlein versus Rast, and Mortara versus Evans. Both McLarens through to the duels. last year, Stoffel Vandoorne reached the duels 13 times, the most of any driver. His quarterfinal record was 1-7, lost 6. Again, predictor time. If you want to get him, oh, I didn't even look at the lap times to see whether you were right. Did you in that Group B? Did you?
On my revision, I was correct.
On your revision, you were correct.
Yes.
Okay, great.
I believe so.
No, I believe you.
All right.
Vandoorne then versus Buemi. About to come. Buemi here on pole position yesterday in that Envision, his 15th pole. If he can take pole today, he'll have the most poles in Formula E history. Back in the lead after having had it taken away from him. Quarterfinal 1, Stoffel Vandoorne in the DS Penske versus Sebastian Buemi for Envision Racing. And this is going to be a tough one, I think, for Vandoorne, because Buemi, all weekend, every session, has looked quick over 1 lap.
Yeah, he has, and he's got that extra confidence now after struggling the last 4 years. We saw that emotion out of him yesterday, and that's just continuing to fuel him through this afternoon. Jay looking as good as ever in the sun.
Buemi now about to head out. Sun beginning to lower here in Diriyah. Race takes place at night.
You can see on this onboard, Buemi just putting a bunch of lock in the front tires. Here's his radio.
So as we discussed, push 350 out on turn 17, OK press.
Instructions of when to turn it up to 350.
Now these tires should still have some temperature in them from the previous session, so he's not so aggressive to bring those up to temp over this outlap. It's the rear tires that he really wants to preserve, and we saw him yesterday consistently going purple in Sector 3, so he could possibly have a really good handle on conserving those rears in the all-important run to the checkered flag in the Sector 3.
It'll be Buemi first across the line, followed by Vandoorne. They come in, no, other way around, sorry. Vandoorne followed by Buemi. There you can see Nick Cassidy, who didn't make it through, actually. Did a good lap earlier on in that session, but didn't make it through to the duels. There is the Envision gang out the back of the garage. There's Jay Penske. And here we go. We've got the split on board here. Buemi on the right, Vandoorne on the left. Won't be identically in sync simply because of frames per second when we're doing it live, but we'll give you a good idea of who's catching time where, and at the moment it's identical, absolutely identical.
Have we ever seen that?
I've never seen it 0.000, I don't think. Like after 3 or 4 corners.
So close.
Now it's 4,000ths between them. Oh, it's huge. It's 100th. Vandoorne's advantage over Buemi. Down to turn 16. Oh, Buemi's got a good advantage now, over 1/10 of a second.
Both pretty clean laps so far. Only a couple corners to go.
Vandoorne chips the gap away a little more, 700ths. Oh, was that a little bit wrestly from Vandoorne, maybe? On the left-hand side, I think he did lose a bit of time there through the chicane. 2/10 between them, needs to be a big final corner for Vandoorne. And it isn't. Maybe pushing a little too hard right at the end, Stoffel Vandoorne, but it's Buemi who advances. Vandoorne doing a 9.282. But it is Buemi through to the semi-final.
Yes, 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 we're through. So in-lap procedure.
Oh, yes. Thank you, guys.
Oh, yes.
Thank you, guys.
Hey, you're not on pole yet, bud.
Oh, yes. Lovely. Next up, Jake Dennis versus Jake Hughes. Predictor reckons that Hughes is beating Dennis here when they faced each other once before. Dennis beat Hughes. And when I say predictor reckons, I mean the people voting on predictor. It's not some magical algorithm we have. That's just your brains, people. Here comes Dennis into the first corner. Through the right-hander and starts to drop down the hill. Hughes is about to start his lap now too, as Dennis winds his way down. Oi, bit of a slide from Hughes coming out of the final corner. Desperate to get on the power and start his lap. And Hughes has got over a 10th on Dennis. Quick for 11, Dennis.
The car rotating really well coming off of the break.
But Hughes is going quicker. Almost 0.3 of a second into turn 16.
Looking really good so far.
He's on rails, Dennis, but...
Still 0.3, now 3.5 almost.
You think Dennis is on rails? Have a look at this.
Yeah.
Into turn 16 comes Jake Hughes.
Much more planted in the brake zone there. Car barely moving. Both him and Rast looking in control here in this qualifying session.
Oh, through the final corner for Dennis, and it's a 1 minute 9.198. That's quicker than Van Doorn's lap, but I don't think it's going to be quicker than Hughes's. The gap grows again to a little just over 0.3 of a second. Out across the line, and it is Hughes who is quickest by almost half a second in this latest round of the Great British Jake-Off.
A huge lap as well, 1:08.7. I think that's one of the fastest laps that we've seen here this weekend.
I can't take credit for Great British Jake-Off. I think it appeared in Autosport. I think it's appeared a lot of you on social media, but I think that's now what it needs to be called. As long as it's...
P1, mate, P1.
Next up, Wehrlein versus Rast. Do you guys think Wehrlein's got this one in the bag? Apart from the staunch René Rast fans. We'll see what happened. So,
it wasn't that Jake's lap was bad. It was just that Hughes was that much better.
Yeah, and Dennis's lap was quicker than Van Doorn's lap. Here we go then, Pascal Wehrlein up against René Rast. Both have one quarter-final appearance this season, but neither have won a duel. That's about to change. But who? 100th between them. As Wehrlein and Rast go together, now it's up to 0.03 of a second. Wehrlein is first on track, Rast is chasing him. Climbing the hill now. Rast's at the bottom. We'll get another split just coming out of this corner. What's the gap going to be? Rast's advantage closes a little, but only down to 0.04 of a second. Rast is quicker in sectors 1 and 2, but by barely anything. Wehrlein through the final corner does a 9.0. Rast is still ahead by 0.03. How good was the chicane? Pretty good. Pretty good. Gaps up to over a 10th here. René Rast in the McLaren. Ian James, eyes wide. Rast faster.
Both McLarens through into the quarterfinals.
Good lap from Pascal Wehrlein, but it's René Rast who goes through to the semi-finals. So the championship leader does a 9.028, so he's at worst 6th on the grid and ahead of Jake Dennis.
Well done, mate.
Mortara versus Evans here. You guys predict Evans will win this one. Stephen Lane, the engineer of René Rast, you could hear giving that information. But Mortara versus Evans, they've faced each other twice, and one has won each.
I don't think anyone predicted Mortara to be in this position today.
No. Mortara beat Evans in the quarterfinal of Marrakesh last year, and Evans beat Mortara in the quarterfinal of Seoul last season. Evans has never started in the top 5 here. Across the line he comes, and down towards turn 1. Eduardo Mortara won 7 of his 8 quarterfinal duels last season. A quarterfinal machine, but he's a 10th down after the first corner. Evans builds the gap a little more. Through the right-hander of 16, Evans' advantage is, 2/10, bit of a twitch from Mortara there, just as he was closing the gap. Evans down at the bottom of the hill.
Using all the track coming out of turn 14. Now trying to hug the apex, staying out of the dirty side of the track. And powering back onto the back straightaway, heading into 18.
Evans, a quarter of a second up on Mortara.
All clean through here, don't do anything special.
Oh, it's almost 4/10 now here for Mitch Evans. Looks like you guys were right. Mitch Evans is going to get through to the semi-finals. Mortara does a 9.279. But Mitch Evans is through to the semi-finals for Jaguar. So that means that 5th on the grid will be Wehrlein. 6th on the grid will be Dennis.
3.5 Dennis. Well done.
7th on the grid will be Mortara, and 8th on the grid will be Van Doorn. So our championship protagonists will start 5th and 6th on the grid for the E-Prix later on today. Gets underway in 3.5 hours' time. So both of Mortara's only quarterfinal defeats have been to Mitch Evans.
Yeah, one of the best qualifying drivers last year. I believe the best qualifying record out of the drivers in the season last year. Just coming up short in the championship.
So now we will move on to the semi-finals in a few months' time. Quarterfinals coming up soon. So, there is the Porsche getting pushed back in. Eduardo Mortara pulling up to the weighbridge. Right, we've had a few drivers eliminated from the quarterfinals. Nicky is with the first one of them.
Well, Stoffel Van Doorn, great to see you make it through to the duels this season. But obviously starting from P8, there's still a lot of work to be done.
Yeah, definitely. You know, our qualifying has been very challenging this year, and yeah, we've been trying a lot of things with the car to try and improve. Still very tricky for us to understand what exactly is going on. You know, it's the first time we made it through to the duels, so maybe it's a small improvement, but yeah, then the first duel against Sepp showed our weakness maybe again a little bit. So yeah, we have to try and understand and make a step forward in the future.
Is there a particular area of the car or the software that you're focusing on that you're having struggles with?
No, I mean it's I think general understanding of how to extract the lap time out of the package, out of the tires. Yeah, we've literally been trying a lot of stuff and you know, pulling the car upside down, but so far we're not quite sure how to unlock it consistently.
And do you think, you know, the indications obviously from in qualifying, you know, still starting from P8 is a respectable position. Do you think you'll be able to move your way up during the course of the race? Have you got the performance for that?
I hope so. You know, our race performance has actually been pretty good, to be honest, and you know, we're starting a little bit higher up. We've seen the Porsches being able to overtake yesterday, so you know, hopefully we can reproduce something that they did, but you know, it's really important for us to learn and to get a couple of points on the board. So we need a good one.
Great, thanks very much. All the best, Stoffel Van Doorn.
Interesting comments from Stoffel there. It's never easy in Formula E, getting lost in the setup and, you know, going between practice sessions with a completely different car. So much about this series is about being in a rhythm, finding those references and extracting the most out of the car that way. And going out there with something new every time, with the car flipped over, as he said, with a different setup. Yeah, it's not easy, but definitely good to see him up here today.
Well, I was thinking that earlier because Jay Penske said it in the interview as well, and now Stoffel said it too. It feels a bit like throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks at the moment at DS Penske. The fact they're trying so many things and turning the car upside down to try and get it going, and it is not the scenario that you want to be in at all as we get ready for the quarterfinals in a couple of moments' time. 8th on the grid it'll be for Van Doorn. Semi-finals incoming in the 3rd round of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship. We will be underway in a few minutes with Jake Hughes versus Sebastian Buemi. And there is Buemi. It's his son's 5th birthday today. So, bon anniversaire if he's watching, but I presume he's watching in French. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe they're listening to the official world feed. But yeah, happy birthday to Seb's son. Right, 6th on the grid will be the championship leader for tonight's E-Prix. Better than yesterday, anyway. Nikki?
Indeed, the driver at the top of our championship standings, Jake Dennis, starting from P6, which is actually a big improvement from yesterday. So how are you going to approach today's race? Do the same as yesterday?
Yeah, definitely. We've just got a few less cars to overtake this time around. You know, obviously we have a really efficient race car at the moment. I don't think we need to go reinventing the wheel in between that, but you know, a lot of hard work went into this session to try and get into the duels. As I was saying to you before, like that was the first 350 lap I've done since Friday morning, just because we had so many other issues. Didn't even expect to be here. So yeah, it was an experience out there on that 350 lap, but you know, we put it together. The lap was clean. Just the McLarens and the Jaguars at the moment are really hooked up and dialed in. But, you know, I think I'd rather start 6th with the powertrain, which I have behind me, than maybe the front row with theirs. So super happy and, yeah, didn't expect to be up here.
So is it still the braking on the 1 lap pace that you're working out at the moment?
Yeah, definitely. I think we're just not quite dialed in on the 1 lap performance and the braking. You know, some of the cars out there have really good systems to basically stop them from locking up. And on dusty street circuits, it pays a huge difference for driver confidence and just getting the car stopped. So, I mean, we can be proud of what we've achieved today, but yeah, we need to come away from this weekend and improve on our 1 lap pace for sure.
All right, well, all the best for the race. Thanks very much, Jake Dennis.
We've heard that multiple times from him this year so far, not expecting to be in a strong position. Yeah. And, you know, speaking to his engineer last night, he's continuing to lower his expectations, and I think that's honestly helped Jake this year, going into each session fresh and not overly confident. Yeah. And I think that seems to be working for him so far.
So just moments away from the next semi-final. Jake Hughes getting ready to head out. He will be up against Sebastian Buemi in a repeat of the final from yesterday, in which Buemi got one over on Hughes.
Jake Hughes is 3 for 3 for making into the duels this year.
And he's 3 for 3 for the semi-finals as well. Right.
Even more impressive.
Let's head down to the pit lane. Karun.
Pascal, we've just been looking around your lap. How was it? What did you think?
Yeah, to be honest with you, it was a good lap. We had issues this morning in free practice, so I couldn't complete all the laps, and I didn't do one 350 lap today. So this was my first lap in full power, and had a quite decent first and second sector, so I thought that I would lose more, or there was more to lose in the last sector, and I was probably a bit too cautious on braking for turn 18 and turn 21, and lost a bit in the last sector. But nevertheless, it was a good comeback from free practice, because we were only 17th or 18th, and yeah, let's say the target was to be in the duels today, and we managed that, and hopefully we have as good race pace as yesterday.
Okay, well, listen, you're starting higher up than you did yesterday, and that worked out fine, so I'm sure you'll be okay this afternoon. Well done. Yes.
So both Pascal and Jake mentioning that was their first lap at full power this weekend in 350 power. I cannot tell you how difficult that is. Going out there, arriving at turn 1 and turn 18, for example, very high approach speeds, not really knowing where to brake. You know, and these drivers have reference points on the side of the track, whether it's a line, a meter board, or a break in the wall. It's very important to have those going into a lap like that.
So here's where we're at. Buemi beat Van Dorn, Hughes beat Dennis, Rast beat Wehrlein, Evans beat Mortara. So we have the potential here of a McLaren front row lockout, and we also have the potential of a Jaguar powertrain front row lockout also. We also have the potential of neither of those things occurring. First up is going to be Sebastian Buemi for Envision Racing up against Jake Hughes for Neon McLaren. And they have faced each other once before, Buemi winning against Hughes, and that was 23 hours and 45 minutes ago in the fight for pole position. Who's going to come out on top this time around? You'd suggest Buemi based on literal facts of yesterday, but Hughes sometimes, and quite often this season, has been on a mission. He's obviously already got the best qualifying average for the season. Average is 2.5 because he's been third on the grid and second on the grid. Fourth is the best other average, which was Lucas de Grassi and Sebastian Buemi, who both started first and seventh in the 2 races. So hugely consistent performance from Jake Hughes.
I'm not even sure if he was meant to drive this car this year. McLaren being very late to choose their 2 drivers in this year's Formula E season.
Yeah, well, he sort of, I think there was a lot of, I think it was quite a sort of complicated scenario with the move from Mercedes EQ to become the McLaren team. And there were lots of McLaren drivers that seemed like they were in the mix. Maybe Sergio Sette Camera, because he used to be a McLaren reserve. Oliver Turvey still does a lot of work with McLaren and is a very good driver and lots of Formula E experience. Maybe he'd get a shot, but in the end it is Jake Hughes.
350, go push 350, and okay.
Right, that's the message, push 350 into
well, I'd
okay.
have to say McLaren, I'm sure, is very happy with their decision.
Yeah, absolutely, this has gone well. Very well indeed. Here comes Hughes, up towards the final corner, following Buemi across the line. Semi-final 1 for a spot on the front row of the grid. Here we go. Synced up the onboards as best as the speed of light allows. And Hughes is a 10th up after the first couple of corners. He's 2 tenths up after the first 5 corners. But we saw this yesterday. Buemi would consistently come back as the lap went on. Would close the gap, and then get ahead right at the end. But it's not happening so far today. Hughes' advantage is almost 4 tenths of a second. Down towards turn 16. Buemi is catching, but is it going to be too little too late? Climbing the hill now, braking for turn 18, vital. Buemi closes in again.
You hear the car bottoming out there on the brakes on the initial spike of brake pressure.
What's the gap now? Buemi closing in again. Less than 2 tenths. Is that going to be enough for Hughes to hang on through the final corner? It's Hughes by 1/4 of a second. Jake Hughes is into the final for the 2nd time this weekend in Diriyah.
Improved his lap again, a 1:08.6, so a couple tenths quicker than he previously went. Super consistent driving from Jake Hughes, and that's exactly what it takes. A couple of engineers laughing about maybe his radio transmission that we hope to hear later on.
Right, semi-final number 2, Mitch Evans versus Rene Rast, Jaguar TCS Racing versus Neon McLaren. And in the predictor vote, you reckon, most of you reckon, it'll be Mitch Evans through. He will be first across the line.
Sam Bird with a new look this year, sporting the tan and frosted tips.
Yeah, he loves it.
He said he hasn't been on vacation.
No, and he was telling the truth. He hasn't been. It's not real. I'm sure it's not real. Anyway, what is real is the Jaguars' pace this weekend. But how much pace has he got here? Evans is a 10th up on Rene Rast as he comes down the hill now. Mitch Evans has only been in the final once in Formula E. That was Monaco last year, and he took pole position. But Rene Rast is closing the gap. It got up to 2 tenths of a second. Now it's nibbling away a little. We're on board with Evans. Rast catching again a little more. Takes really wide line into 16 to get the drive out. Oh, and a bit of a slide on the exit. Gap extends. Rast loses a bit of ground.
Looking a little bit better there through turn 16 and 17 as Rast which helped him gain a couple of hundredths of a second, but still not enough. He's got to find a bit more here in Sector 3.
Evans across the line, does an 8.690. That is quick. Rast is a quarter of a second down. He's never started on the front row in Formula E, and he won't today. Mitch Evans is through to the final. It won't be a front row lockout for McLaren. Rast will start third on the grid for the third time in his career, but Mitch Evans will be on the front row.
So Evans and Hughes here will be a fantastic matchup, both running a very similar time in their semifinal. The Evans finishing with a 108.6.
Buemi getting pushed back into the garage. And Evans is through into the final. As I say, he's been in the final only once before, but he took pole position in Monaco last season. Stoffel Van Dorn ended up winning the race. But Evans was quicker in every sector in that fight with René Rast. As Rast returns to the pit lane. We'll be under the way with the final shortly. And the battle for the Julius Baer pole position. Here's a look at Jake Hughes. Now, here he is coming into 16. Whoa!
In turn 7. Getting a bit too close.
Oh, so he hit the wall in turn 7. So that was earlier on in the lap.
Again, similar to what he did yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. So this was him getting a bit leery, but he actually hit the wall at turn 7, much earlier on in the lap than this. And, whoa, he was so out of shape at the 16.
On the brakes there. So this tells me that this car has more pace.
Yeah. So yeah, but that's so, because yesterday he hit the wall on the inside at turn 7.
Yeah.
And today he's saying on the radio he's done it again. Getting too greedy. So we're into the final. Hughes beating Buemi. Evans beating Rast. Rast was quicker than Buemi though, so Rast will be third on the grid. Buemi fourth on the grid. And then fifth and sixth will be Wehrlein and Dennis, the two championship leaders. But it'll be either Mitch Evans or Jake Hughes who will be on pole position for the third round of the championship later on. Only two drivers, Mortara and Degrassi, both driving for Venturi, have lost in consecutive finals. So Jake Hughes would be the third driver, only the third, to have lost in back-to-back finals. I'm here with all the stats you didn't need to know that you knew you didn't need to know.
You're the Formula E encyclopedia.
Yeah.
Not me.
Yeah, obviously not you.
Yeah.
Did you think you were?
No.
Okay, fine.
Never.
Right, let's have a look at this side-by-side.
I stay in my lane.
Yeah. Well, take us around the driving bit then, Mr.
All right.
Askew.
Well, this is turn 1.
Good.
It's gorgeous.
Now this is a mock final side-by-side, so basically the two drivers we're going to see in the final.
Oh, maybe we can see Jake here.
On the right
possibly
here.
Clip the wall, let's see.
Oh,
there it is.
God. It was actually 6 he hit the wall yesterday, wasn't it? So he's
on the right side of the car.
Left it a corner later.
So definitely leaving it out, leaving it all out there. Just kissed the wall, not enough to knock the alignment out, obviously. And here the combined, also difficult, turn 16, combined braking. So you're decelling the car as you're turning into the apex, asking the front tires to both stop and rotate. And now the big break into 18. Both drivers running very similar lines. Very good on traction as well. And you can hear that the regen of this powertrain. No mechanical brakes at the rear of the car this year. All regen from the powertrain.
And that's what James Barkley thought. And Sam Bird. was so interesting what you said. I don't know if I'm going to throw you under the bus here, but I'm going to try not to.
Oh, God.
But, but you were saying, we had a little chat with Sam Bird in the paddock. You were like, such a happy chappy. He's got a real spring in his step, and you'd never experienced that from last season.
Right. I first met him at the beginning of last year, and he was much more quiet and seemed maybe down on himself.
Yeah.
Definitely having a struggle in season 8, but yeah, saw him this morning, happy for it seemed the first time.
Yeah.
So it's great to see this form from him. Both Jaguars, that is.
And this will be the first front row start for Jaguar. They were third on the grid yesterday with Sam Bird. They were third a couple of years ago, I think, with Sam Bird, if I recall correctly, with Robin France on pole. Right then, come on. Formulary predictor. Who's going to win the final? Let us know. The final about to get underway in Diriyah. Mitch Evans versus Jake Hughes. But first up, let's go down to Nicky Shields.
Well, Sebastian Buemi, obviously yesterday was a fantastic day seeing him on pole position. Jake Hughes, though, he showed you who was boss today, just a little bit faster than you in that session.
Yeah, I think he's done a great job. Obviously, yesterday it was very good again. Maybe I took a bit too much margin in a couple of corners. It's never easy, you know, to put the lap together, and that's the way it is. But obviously, I've had a good run in qualifying since Mexico and now here, so I just want to build up on that and keep learning and keep improving, basically.
Well, it's brilliant to see you back performing at the top. And I believe there's a special birthday today.
Yes, yeah, actually, yes, that's true. Yeah, it's my small kid, Theo. Yeah, I wish you a very bon anniversaire, mon chéri. 5 ans, c'est top.
Let's hope they save you a piece of cake. Thanks very much, Sebastian Buemi.
Can't eat cake. Nicky's a racing driver. I don't know. Did you eat cake as a racing driver?
Have you seen me?
I don't think.
I mean,
I don't know what that means.
Look at me. I'm a breadstick.
Oh, right. Yeah, fine.
Yeah,
Yeah. Breadstick. A breadstick with arms. That's what you are.
In all honesty, I can eat whatever I want, and I will not put on weight. So yes.
Actually, I don't want to talk to you then.
To tell the truth, I've had lots of cake.
Right, final getting underway in less than 2 minutes. And Jake Hughes.
Let's focus here, huh? We've got a big final on our hands.
But the best part is you've come dressed as a breadstick today. If you're sticking with us post-quali, you'll see him in a lovely bread-coloured suit.
Desert chic.
Desert chic.
That's what we call it. Both Nicky and I with great sense of fashion.
Yeah. Change one letter in chic, and I think you're about right. Hughes is about to head out in the final then, and he will be up against Mitch Evans in the battle for pole position. There is Evans leaving the pits now. And this is going to be a really, really tight one. Mitch Evans in the Jaguar, looking for his 4th career pole position. Jake Hughes looking for his 1st. Jake Hughes will have started in the top 3, the only driver to have started in the top 3 at every race so far this season, but yet to have a pole. This is how they got here. They both did. There was 100th between them in the semi-finals. Hughes was quicker by 100th. This is going to be quite the matchup.
I'm taking Hughes on this one.
Yeah?
Based on that lap, I think he has some more in it. He's pushing to the absolute limit. He has so much confidence in this car.
And when you... I don't quite know how to ask this question. When we're seeing, as we get ready for Evans versus Hughes, predictor vote is going to Hughes. Okay, so you are on the side of the fans, Oliver Askew, as ever. Fan favorite.
I never once got fan boost last year, so thank you to everyone listening. Definitely not a fan favorite.
So when we see Hughes hitting the wall and clipping the wall and all out of shape at 16, sometimes that's a sign that you're out of control, right? But is it sometimes a sign that,
it's a sign that
you
he's
feel
in
you can
control.
throw it around?
I mean, he's hit the wall twice now.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say hit, he's just kissed.
Yeah.
And that just shows how much margin that he's taking. And on this track, you know, the closer you are to the walls, the more grip that you're going to have.
Yeah. Haunted Hilmy on hashtag Diriyah E-Prix says, honestly, Oliver Askew and Nicky Shields have the best fits out of the gang.
There we go.
So
The people have spoken.
The people, one person has spoken. The final then about to get underway.
Come on, keep tweeting.
Mitch Evans first on track here. Jake Hughes, who has been something of a rookie sensation.
Scenario 6, easy on the rears, particularly the left.
Easy on the rears, particularly the left is the message from Alan Cox. So don't wear out your left rear on the outlap because you'll need it here in a lap's time.
It is a clockwise circuit, so putting more stress on the left side of the car. And Evans starting his lap.
Here we go then, the battle for pole position for the third round of the season, and for 3 points. Would take Jake Hughes above Andre Lotterer. Would take Mitch Evans up into 10th in the championship. But more importantly, they'll start at the front of the grid for the race later on today. Here's Hughes now starting his lap into turn 1. They're just both leaning on it, aren't they? 500ths the margin at the moment. I love these cars in 350 kilowatts. You see the body language, so aggressive. Hughes still ahead, but the gap comes down a little now. It's gone up a bit to 1/10 of a second. Evans hugging the wall all the way around 16. Oh, and Hughes has built the gap up to 1/4 of a second, but he's arriving a bit sideways of 14. Albert Lau in the middle there, the chief engineer. Evans closes the gap a little more. Hughes on rails out of 16. Evans across the line. It's an 8.797, slower than he did in the semi-finals, but it's now just 800ths the gap. Can Hughes hang on?
He just has to hit his marks here, the final 2 corners.
Oh, the
it's closing again.
7,000ths of a second. It all comes down to the final corner in the battle for pole. And it's Hughes.
He's taking it.
Hughes finds 1/10 of a second in the final turn. And for the first time, we'll start on pole position in the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship. René Rast delighted for his young teammate. Gary Paffett in there. Franco Chiacchetti, Albert Lau high-fiving everybody. And Jake Hughes will be on pole for the Diriyah E-Prix.
You won it, mate. Pole position, well done. Good job, good job.
And he almost did the exact same lap time as his semi-final. So how's that for consistency? I mean, this is this was gonna come at some point, right?
Yeah.
Sooner than later.
Someone's birthday as well in the garage. 27th different driver to take a pole position in Formula E. And obviously more subdued in Jaguar, but still
a front row
second
start.
on the grid, exactly. And yesterday they turned 3rd into 3rd. Maybe they can get a podium with Evans today.
Yes, thanks guys, thank you so much. Anyway, full focus on the race. Enjoy it for 10 minutes and then we'll focus.
Such a pro, isn't he, Hughes?
Push your temperatures.
A lovely kid, Jake Hughes. In his 3rd Formula E race, in his first 3 Formula E races, Hughes will have started 3rd, 2nd, and now 1st. As he pulls up into the garage. First met him when he was 19 years old, racing in the BRDC Formula 4 Championship, back in the early stages of both our careers, and was a really lovely professional guy back then when he was 19. I was 23, I definitely wasn't nice or professional. At least now I'm a little bit, I don't know which one of the two, maybe, hopefully. But he's always been a pro, and he never had the money. You know, he never had the money to be in a good car in Formula 3 or in Formula 2, to be with Dams or ART. But he has it now. He has a professional drive, worked hard to become the the Mercedes EQ reserve driver with Ian James and the rest of the gang. They were so impressed with him, they promoted him to a race seat. His first pro race seat. And in the first 3 races, he has demonstrated absolutely phenomenal skill. 3rd
having it.
I need to look into the record books here.
If you can bring us luck again, that'd be great. Thank you.
Ian James even likes cameramen now. The camera likes Ian James, to be fair, but... Right. Here's a look at Jake Hughes' lap that took him pole position. Down towards turn 1. Oh, a bit of a slide there. We start the run down the bobsleigh. Another little slide. He's correcting he's so happy with the car moving around underneath him. Another little correction. Through turn 14 at the bottom of the hill. Now it's the run towards turn 16. This is where he got a bit leery before. That was very neat. Hugs the inside wall and gets on the power. Right on the limit of the brakes, so close to the wall on the inside on the right. Final corner at turn 21. And that is pole position for the 3rd round of the championship. And look at this, is René Rast's reaction. And that was the McLaren reaction.
Can I celebrate that one now, Alex? Come on, let me celebrate that one.
I tell you what, that Rast reaction nearly brought a little tear to my eye there. Honestly, like, what a lovely, he's a lovely man, René Rast.
Nice one. Lovely.
And really happy for his young teammate. Well, let's hear from him, shall we? We've seen his lap. And in only his 3rd race, he will be on pole position for round 3 of the season. Nikki?
Jake Hughes, I mean, that was just phenomenal. Where to start? Huge congratulations. Your first pole position in Formula E.
Oh, I'm buzzing, to be honest. I'm still trying to calm down. Yeah, like P3 in Mexico, P2 yesterday, P1 today is a nice trend. So we were sort of joking about it yesterday and this morning, but to actually achieve it in my third race in Formula E is pretty special. But all the credit goes to the team. You know, I've been a part of this team for 2 or 3 years now, and they've prepared me as well as I think any rookie's ever been. So that's a credit to them.
Well, the reaction from you and the team was just sensational. The big question is, what is going to happen in the race? Can you keep up the pace?
We'll find out. You know, yesterday it wasn't ideal, but I think we took some lessons that we can apply today. So I won't stand here and say that we're going to win the race, but I think you know, if we apply what we learned yesterday, then we're going to be in a better position to try and execute that.
Brilliant. Well, I'm now going to introduce Regis Berger, who's going to present you with the pole position trophy. That's going to look rather nice in the trophy cabinet.
So Jake Hughes securing pole position. Absolutely buzzing. And fair to say, he is very prepared, having been with the team for a couple of years, and as a rookie, he's not coming in sort of completely in the deep end. But nevertheless, still a remarkable, remarkable performance. I'll try and go back through the... I can't remember a rookie. Here's a look at the starting grid on the left-hand side. I can't remember a rookie getting a pole position so soon, honestly. I mean, obviously Buemi took pole for the first race. I think there was pole for Verne in his first race, but that was 8 years ago. Remarkable stuff. So, remarkable performance.
Mitch Evans, huge congratulations, starting from the first row of the grid.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, really happy with that. It's been a much better day compared to yesterday. Being quickest in FP3, and then top in the groups, and then yeah, advancing to the finals was good, but Jake he's been really impressive since he joined the championship, and he's just had that little bit on me throughout the qualifying stages. I did my best. I just lacked a little bit of tire bite from that last run, which was a bit frustrating. I think he may have had the same thing, so I couldn't replicate the same lap as before. But full credit to McLaren. They've obviously been super quick. Now we obviously turn our focus to the race, so looking forward to that.
Absolutely. I mean, this has been a massive turnaround this weekend for Jaguar TCS Racing. Sam Bird on the podium yesterday. Now it's your turn.
Hopefully. Look, we've been pretty strong in the races, not as strong as the Porsches, but relatively, compared to others, pretty strong. So hopefully we can take a step today, and obviously starting from the front row, we can hopefully not have the same thing happen yesterday with the brakes. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the race.
You put yourself in a brilliant position. Thanks very much, Mitch Evans.
Second on the grid then for Mitch Evans and the Jaguar TCS Racing team. He will be confident of getting a podium from there. And a very, very strong performance. So it'll be Hughes on pole, Evans in second on the grid. Then it'll be René Rast in third with Sebastian Buemi in fourth position. Fifth for Pascal Wehrlein, sixth for Jake Dennis. The top two in the championship sharing row three. Eduardo Mortara looking to get Maserati MSG off the line in terms of points. Stoffel van Doorn with his best qualifying result of the season, the reigning champion. Sam Bird, ninth for Jaguar TCS Racing, ahead of Max Günther. Bird finished on the podium yesterday. Dan Tictamoni 11th, going to be a struggle for him to get points. Sasha Fenestraz starts a little further up than he did yesterday. Sergio Sedicamera 13th, ahead of Oliver Rowland in the Mahindra. And then it is Nick Cassidy, 15th on the grid, with Jean-Eric Verne down in 16th for DS Penske. Antonio Felix da Costa and Andre Lotterer struggling a little in the Porsche-powered Porsche and Andretti, respectively. Nato will be 19th, with Lucas de Grassi in 20th. And then the two Abt Cupras of Calvin van der Linde and Nico Muller will be on the back row of the grid. And of course, there has been a pole position on debut before, 2017 in New York City. So a really, really strong performance from, Alex Lynn in New York City in 2017. So that was the last time we had such a strong early rookie performance. So let's go down to Vernon.
Thanks, Jack. It's a beautiful evening here. It's a beautiful evening here in Diriyah. The sun is about to set. Big Mac, can you get that? Will your lens cope with the sunshine? Look at that view. Let's not forget we are at a UNESCO World Heritage Site here in Diriyah, just north of the capital. Absolutely.
Temp's dropping as well. You got to get your sweater on.
It really is, but I'm not going for beige, my friend.
No.
I'm not going to leave that to you and Nikki. Someone who definitely wasn't beige during qualifying was the main man, Jake Hughes. I mean, in his very brief Formula E career, he's had a 1, a 2, and now a 3.
What a record.
He's had a 3, a 2, and now a 1. Or a 2,
a 3, 2, and a 1.
And a 1.
Yeah,
now he's on pole.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. Awesome performance from the rookie. I mean, outstanding. This guy, I mean, he did say that he's been with the team a very long time, but to actually have a seat, have a drive, and then do exactly what I would imagine he's been doing in the simulator on the track is so special. And is it unique, that?
It is extremely unique, and in his situation coming into this new car as a rookie, I think it evens the playing field a little bit. You spoke about his simulator experience with the past Mercedes EQ team. Of course it helps, but once you get to the real thing, it is a bit different, right? A lot more pressure. Of course, you have the added G-forces, the physicality of that car. You saw him get out of the car in Mexico. He's completely knackered. Yeah. I would think that he's a lot more race fit now and ready to go.
Took him by surprise, didn't it?
It did, yeah, it did. And these cars, it doesn't take so much strength to drive these cars. Of course, it's physical, but the mental, it's so mentally taxing to drive these cars. So much going on. There's so much energy that it takes to focus on driving this car around a circuit like this, especially.
All right, well, let's take a closer look at what Jake did here in qualifying with Karun there at our monitor.
Well, I'm joined by the pole man. Jake, you have been on unbelievable form, hitting those mid-8s every single run. Let's get into your final lap here. Talk me around. So, first sector of the lap, you really are unbelievably committed through here, aren't you?
Yeah, it's always a tricky one, turn one, to find the right balance with the front of the car. Also turn 2, here you always pick up a lot of understeers. You have to stay close to the apex. But this is the most critical corner in Sector 1 and Sector 2, turn 5.
This left-hander?
Yeah, exactly.
Why is that?
Well, I overpushed on, I think, the semi-final lap.
You could see your hands here.
Exactly. I overpushed on the semi-final lap, went a bit wider into turn 6, and it put me offline for the whole sequence, and I hit the wall later in turn 7.
Yeah, we saw that.
But it comes from turn 5. So that's the hardest issue. You have to rotate the car through this section almost with the throttle. So you have to have a lot of confidence.
It definitely looked like you had the car moving around much more in the final than you did on the previous round. Is that just because the tyres have done a bit more and the car's done a bit more?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. And my outlap was intended to be a little bit slower to protect the rear left especially. So yeah, it hung on a little bit better towards the end of the lap.
Now, for me, this is really impressive. I'm going to ask people, just watch your hands here, under braking for 16.
Yeah.
Like the car's squirming around. There's obviously lights coming on to tell you where the wheels are locking up.
Yeah.
But talk us through that in the cockpit, because what does that feel like when the car's moving around? How are you balancing, you know, the brake versus the steering input? Because that's the dance you've got to do in the cockpit, isn't it?
I mean, turn 16 is probably the most tricky braking zone on the track, at least in my opinion. You know, you come through turn 15 into kink with a lot of combined. There's a big bump on the middle phase of braking.
Let's go back to it, find it.
Yeah, and you have to have a lot of confidence with the brake systems on the car, effectively. You know, we don't actually use the front brakes that much. We rely a lot on the motor to slow down the car. So if the controls are off and you're losing confidence, you just won't push the entry, and then it upsets the exit.
So now, in your head, you've got, through most of the lap, you've got 2 big corners coming up. What's your mindset coming into these last 2 braking zones? Are you going, okay, let's just get it neat and tidy, or are you still trying to define a bit more?
No, I kept on reminding myself when I was sitting at the end of the pit lane, you know, that this is Formula E. I can't leave anything on the track. So when I was coming into turn 18 almost every time, seeing my delta that I was up, basically, I thought I can't rest now because I'll kick myself if I leave a 10th on the table. Well, so it was full push.
You didn't leave much to that wall there. I mean, if you look at just how close you are to that wall on the right hand side.
A bit closer than I thought I was, actually.
You know, there's really not much margin at all. Right, okay, so you've got through this one, and now into the final couple of traction zones. What's the rear tyres like? Because as the lap unfolds, lots of drivers were saying how they were really struggling with rear tyres.
Yeah, us the same. I think it's something that even though we're on pole, I think it's something we're looking to improve a lot at the moment. You know, you come from turn 19 with a lot of yaw in the car through the left hand, and then you go to immediately a fast kink in turn 20. So you could arrive at turn 21 with the rear left screaming hot, and you have to execute it.
All right, listen, that was a stunning lap. You guys struggled a little bit with energy yesterday. How confident are you for today?
Yeah, I'm confident. I mean, we're starting on the clean side of the grid at least today. I think we learned some good lessons yesterday. You know, the Porsches and the Jags were pretty quick in general for the whole race yesterday. So we have to pick our battles. Hopefully what we've learned we can put into practice and execute a bit better.
All right, listen, I believe Radzi's with your team boss, Ian James. So let's go down the pit lane.
Ian James, 24 hours ago, I said you're going into the duels, the happiest man in Saudi for the next 2 minutes. Now I get to say the happiest man for an hour.
Yeah, no, we'll take that one. What a stunning drive. Actually, by both drivers, but especially with Jake now on pole. First one for the Neil McLaren Formula E team. We'll take that.
And just in terms of started 3rd in his first race, 2nd in his 2nd race, 1st in his first race. I mean, this is just phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, his consistency has been outstanding, and I need to have a look at the stats to see how many drivers in their first 3 races have ever done anything like that, because I think it's just incredible. So if we can continue that trend, we'll be in a very good position. But we've got a long way to go in the race. We need to keep our feet on the ground, get everybody settled again, and then see what we can do.
And just a word for Rast, yesterday fastest lap, so there's something about your car and this track going fast for a single lap.
Of course, it's sort of a home race for us, so it's, so I think that might have something to do with it. But yeah, I mean, we've got the pace in the car. There's no doubt about it. There's some other areas that we're struggling in, so we need to work on those a little bit. But I think we've put ourselves in a very strong position, which is great. And a huge thank you as well, of course, to Nissan for providing the car that can actually deliver on that. So they've done a great job.
Massive congratulations. Have a great race.
Thank you. Thanks. All the best.
All right, there you go. That's McLaren ticked off. Let's tick off the Jaguar boys. Mitch, so close yet so far away for pole position.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me.
Well, you know, we're friends. We can be honest.
No, it's true. Look, I'm super happy to advance to the finals, but Jake just had that little bit too much for me. Pretty much all through quali, from the group stages, from each duel, he just had like half a tenth to a tenth on me. So look, I tried, but still P2 I would take if I knew that come to the track today, I would have signed up for it. So look, we seem relatively strong in the race. The Porsches are definitely the benchmark, but we seem relatively strong, so hopefully I can just score some good points today.
Prior to you arriving, James, your team principal, was saying that that was mainly down to track evolution. Is that pretty evident when you're driving?
Yeah, I mean, it's always hard to judge, but I think obviously if the car behind is going, you know, you get a little bit of track cleanup. I think towards the end it's a little bit less sensitive. But yeah, I mean, look, it was. I felt a little bit better on my previous attempt with Rast, but look, it was still a clean lap, just not quite enough.
Yeah. Have you got the efficiency to overtake and then push on in the race?
Yeah, I think our powertrains have been performing really well in the races. As we saw yesterday, just not quite the same pace as the Porsches, but compared to the McLarens, we seem competitive. But look, everyone's going to improve from yesterday, so let's see what we got.
All right, you go and get dusted down. Let's welcome in James Barclay, the team principal. Oliver, you come in. Let's get a little bit technical here, James. We've seen the evolution of the track. We've seen the evolution of the Gen 3 car from Mexico to now. You guys are constantly working. It never stops in this garage. What have you found from last night that you're going to implement tonight?
Well, obviously the race yesterday was really, really important. You know, well, we learned a lot, and fundamentally it's about how to make sure we optimize the efficiency, and that is, you know, sometimes really kind of important on the chassis side as well as obviously on your powertrain side. Powertrain's fixed, right? So you can't change your hardware. So it's about working to set the car up in the best way possible for the race. And I think we could see the Porsches seem to have really, really fantastic chassis balance. It allowed them to carry good minimum speeds. The faster corner speed you have, the less energy you use accelerating out. So yeah, we could learn a lot from that. You know, we're not a million miles away, but for sure a big part of our focus was how we could improve that race-long efficiency and chassis balance.
We know in Formula E how important simulation is. Have you guys correlated that well with this new car back in the simulator?
Well, as you know, it's best we can, you know, and we're early stages in Gen 3. So where we got to the end of Gen 2, we were actually very, very close. But importantly, to get our simulator both in the pre-race event prep and then when we get back to the factory after here is trying to kind of bring that time down. What we can learn during this weekend allows us to close that gap between the simulator and the reality. And for sure, even this weekend, just evolving the car since Thursday, just to try and improve that simulation gap. But we're getting closer and closer, and that's part of the format of Formula E is because we can't do a lot of testing these circuits. You've got to evolve your virtual and your real world.
Yeah.
We sometimes forget that this is a new car. Has anything been transferable from the Gen 2 car? Is everything completely brand new?
Other than some of your energy strategies in the race, it's all new, Vernon. It's all new. The car's completely different, right? Brand new car, completely different layout of car, completely different tyre. So honestly speaking, it's that's why I said at the start of the season, you came to our launch, it's literally a reset. It's a reset. Everyone is starting from scratch, and it's why you see teams like Neo putting on fantastic times, because you can start from the same point. Now it's about how you can evolve, and that's going to be the key part of the season. It's about developing, not just expecting to finish the season as you started.
And what's been the difference from a driver's perspective? Sorry, Oliver, just coming in a bit closer. With the dual motor system and the regenerative braking, what's their feedback to you?
The biggest thing is driver feel. I always say this, the accelerator, the throttle is, and Oliver, it's better talk to this, it's almost like linked to your confidence. The accelerator is easy, right? The brake is what affects the confidence, and the drivers need to know that they can have consistent brake pedal feel, and this car is slowing down on the front and the rear electric motor and then blending with the brake, and that feel is so critical to build driver confidence.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, James. Always an absolute pleasure to talk to you, and good luck with the race. Interesting stuff, Oliver, and I think it will all transpire, all come to fruition a little bit later on here when the sun sets in Diriyah. But for now, get involved with the predictor and we'll see you later for the race. Thank you very much. Good night.
One of the most spectacular races of the season is about to get underway. Brand new car, brand new season.